Have you ever had that incredible feeling like you've stumbled upon maybe a forgotten journal or some old
Yeah,
letters?
yeah, and suddenly this whole hidden world just springs to life.
Exactly. It feels personal, but it also, reveals a whole system.
Oh, right.
And today we're sort of unlocking one of those histories. We're diving into these really powerful excerpts from Majoub Tobji's memoir, Livre Armé Marocain Aujourd'hui.
Yeah.
And this isn't just any book, it's a first-hand account over 40 years inside the Moroccan military.
40 years. Wow.
Yeah, giving this incredibly unique perspective from a man who, well, it seems against all odds, really held on to his principles while everything around him was swirling with corruption.
And that's really our mission in this deep dive, isn't it?
Yeah.
To use Tabji's own story, his personal narrative,
Yeah.
to unpack this really intricate web.
Corruption, political games.
Political maneuvering, yeah, and the
Yeah.
struggle for just basic individual integrity within the Moroccan military. We're looking at the period from, say, the tumultuous early 70s right through to the early
Just a
2000s.
huge span of time.
It is. And we want to understand not just what happened, but, why it matters. What's the relevance globally? How do these power structures work? And what's the human cost?
And you mentioned figures we'll encounter.
Oh, absolutely. You'll meet these pivotal figures, people really deeply tied into Morocco's modern history. King Hassan II, of course,
Right.
and powerful generals like Oufkir, Blimi, Benzlamain, Lenigri, some names you might know from the coup attempts against the king,
Big names.
definitely. And all of this seen through Tabji's own very uncompromising eyes.
Tabji's connection to the military, it wasn't just a career path, was it? It sounds like it was literally in his DNA.
That's a good way to put it. He was actually born in a barracks.
Yeah.
His father was away fighting in Italy in World War II.
No kidding.
Yeah. And his father apparently abandoned this illustrious family name to become Tabji, which just means artilleryman.
Really embracing the identity.
Totally. And his grandfather fought with Abdelkrim el-Khattabi in the Rif War, a national hero.
So this is someone steeped in ideals of duty, service.
Exactly. Courage, devotion, honesty, that was the ideal he was raised with, ready to serve his country. So given that background, that really ingrained sense of purpose, what happens when he actually joins the military?
Well, that's what makes the next part so, well, jarring.
Right. Because it's precisely that deep-rooted ideal that makes what happened next so shocking. It's 1972, okay? Right after two failed coup attempts.
A very tense time.
Extremely. And King Hassan II dresses hundreds of army officers. Tabji is there, just a young officer himself.
And what does the king say?
His declaration was, well, chillingly pragmatic. He apparently said, if I have good advice to give you, it is from now on to make money and stay away from politics.
Wow. Just like that, make money.
Just like that. Tabji calls it a violent shock, and you can see why. This wasn't just casual advice. It was basically a green light from the head of state, the patron of the armies.
So essentially paving the way for...
For a new type of officer, as Tabji puts it. Someone driven by business, by profit. The opportunist businessman replacing the dedicated soldier.
So the king makes this declaration. How fast did things change? Did those military ideals just evaporate? What were the immediate effects on an institution that was supposed to be upright?
Well, the change was devastatingly swift, according to Tabji. The army, which he says had this reputation for integrity, for self-sacrifice, up until the early 70s,
Right.
just started to morph into what he calls an office where everything is bought and sold, even souls.
Strong word.
Very. And he lays the blame right at Hassan II's feet, calls the king the first responsible. He points out that the king already blurred the lines between public money and his own funds, and corruption scandals were creating hostility.
Didn't one of the earlier coup attempts stem from that? Medbo in 71?
Exactly. Tabji mentions that General Medbo's 1971 coup attempt was reportedly driven by his disgust with the regime's corruption even then.
And the human cost. You mentioned consequences.
It became tragically clear very quickly. Think of Tasmamart, that notorious secret prison.
Ah, yes. Infamous.
Many officers, some just unknowingly caught up in the coup attempts, they ended up there, lost their lives, or years of their lives. Tabji even mentioned some of his own former students.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, men he describes as having principles, suffered unbelievable horrors in Tasmamart. It just shows how fast integrity wasn't just ignored, it was brutally punished.
Okay, so let's move forward a bit. Into the mid-1970s, the Western Sahara War starts up,
Right.
and Tabji says this conflict gave an extraordinary boost to nascent mercantilism. How did a war, supposedly about national defense, actually end up fueling the corruption?
It essentially became a huge pipeline for making money,
Yeah.
illicitly. Tabji points out the Sahara's location, its proximity to places like the Canary
It's
Islands.
very trafficking easy.
Exactly. All sorts of trafficking became possible. And you had officers, many earning salaries similar to Tabji's own, suddenly amassing veritable fortunes very quickly.
Mm.
And Tabji's description of leading his unit, the 4th Green March Commando, the CMV, mostly Sahrawi soldiers,
Yeah.
it's chilling. He says officers on the front lines faced two enemies.
Two enemies.
Yeah. The official enemy, the Polisario Front.
The Sahrawi independence movement.
Right. And those who commanded us, their own leadership.
That's quite a statement. Two enemies. Can you give us some examples? What did that corruption actually look like on the ground?
Oh, absolutely. Tabji paints a picture of just systemic neglect. Basic military needs, troop welfare, all sacrificed for personal profit.
Like what specifically?
Okay, so picture this. Jeeps driving on rocky desert terrain. They often had only one spare tire.
One spare. That's asking for trouble.
Constant breakdowns. But then brand new equipment, things like headlights, windshields, stuff they desperately needed, it would just get discarded or sit unused by higher command.
So soldiers had to buy their own?
Officers and soldiers often had to buy basic supplies out of their own pockets. Meanwhile, Tabji describes logistics chiefs, like a General Ziadi, walking around inspecting troops wearing a diamond solitaire of several carats.
Unbelievable. While his men lacked tires.
Right, and then there were high-ranking officers, like a General Karima, who would apparently use army trucks and even army personnel to deliver his personal olive oil.
Using military resources for groceries, essentially.
Pretty much. Or colonels literally selling off villas to buy their commands. The whole mission just became a business opportunity for those at the top.
And Tabji talks about the wall, the defensive barrier built across the Sahara under General Delimi.
Ah, yes, the famous wall.
Supposedly for defense, but Tabji says it wasn't actually that effective against Polisario. They could get through.
That's right. He says Polisario forces could breach it pretty easily, sometimes even bringing Spanish journalists with them to prove it.
So if it wasn't really a deterrent, what was its real function?
According to Tabji, corruption again. It became a literal checkpoint for smuggling.
A toll booth.
Essentially. He gives the example of camels. A camel bought for maybe 500 euros in Mauritania, its price would triple once it crossed that famous wall into the Sahara.
And the military controlled the crossing.
Military trucks needed a colonel's okay to pass. Apparently, General Benani's staff controlled the import permits for this camel trade. It turned a defensive wall into a revenue stream.
It's just the level of disregard for the soldiers, for the mission itself. It's staggering, especially when you contrast it with Tabji trying to do the right thing.
It really paints a stark picture of where the priorities were.
And the human cost must have been immense.
Oh, devastating. Absolutely devastating. Tabji talks about thousands of soldiers dying, tens of thousands of orphans and widows left behind.
And what about leave for the soldiers?
That was another scandal. The permits à la tête du client system.
Yeah.
Basically, leave depended on who you knew on favors.
So officers got regular time off.
Officers got leave pretty regularly, but ordinary soldiers could go months, Tabji says, even over a year, without seeing their families.
Terrible for morale.
And the neglect of the wounded? It was appalling. Sent home still in bloodstained pajamas, no proper follow-up care, no respect for the dead, either no dedicated military cemeteries for those killed in action.
While Tabji was doing what?
He contrasts this sharply with his own efforts. He made sure his men got care, he meticulously recorded the names of his fallen comrades, even built a small, dedicated cemetery for them himself. It highlights the difference principle makes.
Okay, let's circle back to Ahmed Limi. You mentioned him earlier. Tabji calls him the most accomplished model of this opportunist officer.
Yes, Delimi is a central figure here.
Tabji says he achieved a coup d'etat without a shot. How did he manage that? What were his tactics?
It's a fascinating insight, isn't it? How you can seize power, not with guns, but by subtly taking control of all the important levers of the state and isolating the person nominally in charge.
So how did Delimi do it?
By 1976, Tabji argues, Delimi had systematically put himself in control of basically the entire army and all the security services.
He placed his own people.
Exactly. He installed loyalists everywhere that mattered. Driss Basri, described as his Man Friday, ended up running the Interior Ministry.
A key position.
Hugely important. And then Mohammed Midiori, who was just a former corporal, he made head of royal protection.
Guarding the king himself.
Right. So effectively, King Hassan II was surrounded, isolated. Tabji says he was left holding just an empty shell of power. Delimi held the real strings.
And his tactics sound pretty Machiavellian, using the Sahara War to keep the king pressured.
And to silence political opposition at home, yeah,
Right.
he was playing multiple angles. And internationally, too.
That CIA connection.
Tabji says he had close ties with the CIA, even got U.S. funding to build the DGAD headquarters, that's the External Intelligence Agency in Rabat.
And the Israeli connection is quite something.
Isn't it? When France temporarily cut off military aid, Delimi apparently had no problem using Israeli supplies, artillery shells. Tabji even says they made sure to erase the Hebrew inscriptions on them.
Pragmatic, or perhaps ruthless. What kind of man was he personally, beyond the politics?
Tabji paints a complex picture. A heavy drinker, apparently. A drug user, Tabji mentions cocaine, saying he used it to keep up his relentless pace. And a known womanizer. But, interestingly, Tabji also notes that Delimi was genuinely shocked, felt betrayed even, by that 1972 coup attempt on Hassan II's plane.
He was on that plane, wasn't he?
He was. And Tabji suggests that trauma might have solidified his determination to secure his own power and just ruthlessly eliminate anyone he saw as a threat. Made him even more paranoid.
And Tabji saw this paranoia firsthand, right? There's a chilling story.
Yes. October 1981. Delimi, after apparently a night of heavy drinking, just openly declares they need to get rid of Colonel Kabaj.
Kabaj, the pilot who saved the king in '72, the one who landed the plane.
The very same pilot. Tabji, being a man of principle, was horrified. He found himself caught in this incredibly dangerous situation, trying to navigate Delimi's plotting without compromising himself. A real moral tightrope.
Which brings us to January 1983, a huge turning point. Delimi dies. Mysteriously.
Very mysteriously.
The official story was a traffic accident, a truck driver who fled the scene.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit, because Tabji doesn't buy it at all, does he? Not for a second. He's completely convinced Delimi was assassinated, and crucially, he believes it was for private reasons. Not because Delimi was planning some new coup. Why would he? He already basically ran the country.
Right. So what made the official story so unbelievable to Tabji?
Well, several things seem suspicious. First, firemen were reportedly washing down the accident scene with high-pressure water hoses at 2 a.m. Middle of the night, pitch dark. Why the rush to clean up?
Covering tracks?
That's the implication. And the location itself, the road to Delimi's villa was apparently this narrow secondary track, barely wide enough for 2 cars. Not exactly a place for a high-speed collision with a big truck.
Seems unlikely.
Very. Then there was the only supposed survivor, Ahmed Larizi, known palace hanger-on. What happens to him? He's immediately shipped off to Mecca. Convenient.
Very convenient.
And finally, Hassan II's actions afterwards. He made a big show of protecting Delimi's family, providing for them, which was in stark contrast to how General Officiers' family was treated after his death, following the '72 coup attempt.
So protecting the family helped sell the accident narrative.
Tabji thinks so. It reinforced the idea that Delimi died innocently, tragically. For Tabji, all these inconsistencies, this whole careful stage management, just proved it wasn't an accident.
And Tabji himself gets caught in the aftermath, doesn't he? His own ordeal starts almost right away.
Almost immediately. He's arrested, thrown into detention for 20 months. Brutal conditions.
On what grounds? Was there any real pretext?
Apparently very flimsy. It seems it was more about what he knew or what they thought he knew about Delimi. The treatment was harsh isolation, sleep deprivation. They'd have guards scraping sandpaper outside his cell just to torture him psychologically.
That's horrific.
A bare cell, while he could see other detainees had it much easier. And during interrogations, he recognized Driss Basri and Husni Benslami.
Delimi's successors, effectively.
Exactly. And Tabji realized they weren't interested in justice. They wanted Delimi's secrets, especially any secrets that implicated them.
So how does someone survive that? How did Tabji maintain his integrity, let alone escape?
His survival, and especially his escape, is just a testament to his incredible willpower. His solution was unbelievably audacious.
What did he do?
He got hold of a tiny screwdriver, somehow, and he started systematically scraping away at the mortar around a brick in his cell wall, day after day.
No way. How did he hide it?
He masked his progress with stacks of books against the wall, and he planned meticulously. Timed his escape for Eid al-Adha, the big religious holiday.
Figuring the guards would be distracted.
Precisely. Fewer guards, maybe less attentive. He got through the wall, made his way out. His journey across the border involved bribing a guard with just 50 dirhams.
50 dirhams for freedom.
And when he finally got to Paris, he said he breathed the best perfume in the world, that of freedom. It's just an incredible story of resilience, how ingenuity and that deep desire for liberty can win out, even against a brutal system.
And the system didn't just let him go, did they? Even after he escaped, they tried to lure him back.
Oh yeah, Driss Basri himself reached out, made offers, promises of a pardon, money, even an invitation to the king's daughter's wedding.
Trying to buy his silence or cooperation.
Exactly. Tabji found the whole thing ignominious, just utterly disgraceful, which says everything about his character, doesn't it? After everything he'd been through, he still wouldn't compromise his principles.
So, after Delimi's death, the story continues with Husni Benzlaman.
Right. Who, Tabji argues, effectively takes over from Lamy as, quote, the real boss of Morocco.
And did things change under Benzlaman, or was it just more of the same?
Tabji's point is that Benzlaman didn't just continue the system of control and corruption, he perfected it. He even mentions Benzlaman staging manufactured riots.
Manufactured riots? How does that work?
Like one in Fez in 1990. Tabji claims Benzlaman would carefully plan these supposedly spontaneous uprisings, let them get slightly out of hand, then swoop in to crush them. All to demonstrate his indispensability to the king. See? Only I can control this.
Chilling. A real continuity of that kind of power structure.
It absolutely is. And that's one of Tabji's most critical points, how enduring this system is. Benzlaman had people like Hamadullah Negri working under him.
La Negri, known for his role at Tazmart, right, a torturer.
The very same.
Mm-hmm.
And with figures like that in his circle, Tabji argues Benzlaman effectively put Mohammed VI in a cage. Maybe a gilded cage, sure, but still a cage. The monarch has the title, but Benzlaman wields the real power.
And the corruption continued.
Pervasive. At every level, from big military contracts where positions are literally bought and sold, down to everyday policing where, even local gendarmes are extorting money. It becomes normalized.
Even affecting the environment.
Yeah, Tabji gives the example of natural reserves, like Moulay Boslam, a really important place for bird migration. Ravaged, he says, because of negligence and local officials enriching themselves. It shows how deep the rot goes.
So with all this systemic corruption, this focus on personal gain, what did it mean for the Moroccan military itself as an institution? Tabji paints a pretty grim picture by the time he's writing, doesn't he?
He certainly does. He describes a military that, by the early 2000s, largely lacks real combat experience. The young soldiers, often idle, unhappy, resorting to drugs, hashish, even injecting perfume, apparently.
Injecting perfume.
Yeah, desperate measures. Meanwhile, the vast resources that should be going to national defense, they're being squandered on the lavish lifestyles of the generals, using military vehicles, personnel, for their personal errands, their villas.
While basic public services suffer.
Exactly, and that's Tabji's core message, really. The devastating long-term consequences when knowledge is suppressed, when integrity gets punished, and when power is just used for personal enrichment generation after generation.
He says the military lost its soul.
He does. It transforms from an institution meant for national service into, well, primarily an apparatus of repression rather than defense or development.
So, as we wrap up, thinking about Majub Tobji's whole story, what does it all mean for you, the listener? I mean, his memoir is just this powerful testament, isn't it, to individual integrity against this overwhelming system.
It really is. His refusal to bend, even when it cost him so much personally. It's a reminder that just holding on to your principles can be a profound act, a form of resistance.
Yeah, enduring resistance.
And Tabji's book leaves us with a pretty provocative thought, too. He suggests that this lack of real accountability for past crimes, for the ongoing pervasive corruption, it could eventually lead to society kind of imploding.
Creating a vacuum.
Potentially, yeah. A void that groups like, say, Islamists might be positioned to fill, capitalizing on state failure and official neglect. It really makes you think, doesn't it? In our world today, with so much information, so many narratives being spun.
How do you know what's real?
Exactly. How can you discern the reality behind the official story? And what role do these individual voices, these lone whistleblowers or memoirists like Tabji, what role do they actually play in shaping a nation's future? Something to ponder.